Formula One on 5 Live.
Hello and welcome back to Yas Marina, the home for round 24 of 24 in this 2025 Formula One World Championship, a title deciding weekend as we build up to a three-way showdown in the desert on Sunday. It's Harry Benjamin with you up in the commentary box, which overlooks the start-finish straight. And if I peek over my monitors and look onto the vista that is the pit lane outside, I think it's McLaren, I can spy our reporter Rosanna Tennant. Good evening as the sun slowly sets.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's golden hour here in Abu Dhabi. Still nice and warm, a slight breeze and blue skies actually, Harry, because during the FP1 session it was overcast, but since this first practice session finished, we've had some sunshine, and now, as you say, the sun is setting and it's absolutely gorgeous here at Yas Marina Circuit. And you're right, I'm outside the McLaren garage, can't keep away from them this weekend. Of course, all eyes are on the McLaren duo as they fight to take their first F1 title. Both drivers still in with a chance, as is Max Verstappen. And I'm just watching Oscar Piastri at the back of his garage. He's all suited and booted, helmet is on. He missed FP1, sat out for Pato O'Ward, the rookie driver, taking his place in that first practice session. He watched from the pit wall, took Zak Brown, the CEO of McLaren's seat, and watched the session, and even did a yawn at the end of FP1. That's how much he enjoyed sitting out of the session. But actually, there's been a lot of work going on his McLaren in the last sort of half an hour or so. The car is still up on the stands. The floor has been off. It's now being reattached. All the bodywork off. A little bit of confusion from some of the mechanics. One was taking a piece of bodywork to the wrong side of the car and was shouted at by another mechanic saying, no, not that side, this side. So a little bit of confusion, but it all seems to be being sorted out now. Oscar Piastri's seat is just being put into the chassis. Of course, they would have used Pato O'Ward's for his first outing in the FP1. So Oscar is ready to go, but we are just trying to find out from McLaren if there's going to be a delay to him heading out on track, because we've been asking the questions to the team, and I don't think they were aware of what was going on in the garage. I think they were having some lunch, Harry. So they are trying to get to the bottom of what has been going on, but hopefully we'll see Oscar Piastri out as quickly as possible as soon as the session gets going.
You were raising the alarm to them, Rosanna,
yeah.
And suddenly they ran back from the pasta bar in the paddock and they were like, quick! Something's going on with Oscar.
The pasta is great, but hey, we've got a bit of bigger business to attend to this weekend, haven't we?
Just slightly, although it is to die for, and the fact Formula One has an official pasta partner is just incredible. Anyway, I won't say who it is, we're on the BBC after all. It's back up in the commentary box for Rebecca Clancy, F1 journalist, and the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, who sit alongside me once more for free practice 2, which will get going in a couple of minutes' time before the green light comes on, and we are just seeing now Oscar Piastri fully kitted up, as Rosanna was saying, just stood at the back of his garage looking at his mechanics working on his car. Let's bring you straight in with how the title permutations look coming into this three-way showdown. It's simple for Lando Norris. He is champion if he is on the podium come the checkered flag on Sunday. It's a little trickier for Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. If Max Verstappen wins the race, he will be champion if Lando Norris finishes 4th or lower. For Oscar Piastri, he must win the race and must see his teammate finish 6th or lower. Those are the only ways that Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri stand a chance of winning this title, with Lando Norris coming into the final round with a 12-point advantage over Verstappen and then a further 4 points over his teammate Oscar Piastri. Now, we got stuck into proper debate in FP1, didn't we, Beck, about the harmony between the two drivers at McLaren, and we've had the team principals press conference in between sessions, and I think it's worth picking up on because, of course, they put Zak Brown in there along with Laura Mekies from Red Bull, and it seems that according to Zak Brown at least, that if there is a chance the team will choose one specific driver in Sunday's race should the other be eliminated from the title fight.
It would appear that common sense has prevailed. Yes, I think, heading into this, the entire season actually, not to go all the way back, but they have approached the season, two fantastic drivers. We all expected Lando Norris to be the favourite. It was pretty clear early on that Oscar Piastri had the edge on him. And McLaren didn't panic. They just said, okay, look, you guys go racing, figure it out on track, and we'll try and keep the harmony happening back in the garage. And that has run all its course to where we are now in Abu Dhabi. And they were adamant heading into this weekend, as in yesterday, media day, that they would again play fair. They wouldn't be asking anyone to do anything that might hamper a potential win or a second place, as in, would Piastri let Norris through and help him onto the podium if Piastri's chances of the championship had completely gone. We were told yesterday that there had been no discussions around that. We obviously didn't believe them at all. And Zak Brown has been in the team principal press conference in between the two sessions that takes place here, and has confirmed that yes, they're free to go racing, and while they both can mathematically win the championship, they will be allowed to race. But if it becomes clear that one or the other cannot, then they will be in it to help their teammate win the driver's title.
But will they oblige? That is the question.
Well,
on track in the heat of the moment.
Or do they do a George Russell and just, oops, turn my radio off, sorry, didn't hear that one?
Well, there was a few static issues for some of the drivers in FP1, wasn't it, over the radio?
Yes, yep.
So could there be a bit of amateur dramatics on Sunday over the radio? We shall see. But green lights come on at the end of the pit lane. FP2 is underway, and those who wish to do a sync up, it's coming at you now. It's 58 minutes and 42, 41, 40, 39 seconds remaining as the sun slowly begins to set. Darkness will fall throughout this session, and the floodlights, some 4,700 fixtures used to light this Yas Marina circuit, will illuminate all 5.2 kilometres of it, just over 3.2 miles, 16 turns, 9 to the left and 7 to the right. And it all starts with that drag down towards turn 1, an almost 90-degree left-hander, and then you're flicking through the fast sweepers, left then right, through turns 3 and 4, and then you've got the first big braking zone, the hairpin at turn 5, sets you up nicely down the 1.2 kilometre back straight, cars blasting down into the desert sunset, reaching speeds of over 320 kilometres an hour. Again, then you slam on the brakes for the left-right chicane of turn 6 and 7. You get another dose of DRS as you carve your way down the slightly curved left straight that runs from turn 8 towards the reprofiled turn 9, reprofiled a few years ago to improve overtaking. That sweeps you back round then into the high-speed section that comes to a really quick stop as you then arc your way through 10, 11, and then brake for the 90-degree right-hander of 12. You're then coming into the hotel section as you sweep left. The car dances through and under the W Hotel, slow technical section, and then you've only got 2 more corners to run. Fast right-hander of turn 15, and then the final corner throughout turn 16. Run a little bit wide, but not too much. Track limits watched like a hawk there before you come back onto the start-finish straight. That is a lap of the Yas Marina circuit, and it is already busy out there because we had 9 drivers miss out on FP1.
The left air vent of my helmet is pointing upward, so it's going in my eye. If we can review that next time I'm in the box, please.
Understood.
The left air vent of Charles Leclerc's helmet pointing upwards. That can't be fun for his eye, being blasted with air.
Thank goodness they know this track so well. They probably drive it with their eyes closed. But he's giving it a go with one eye. It doesn't sound great though, does it?
No, absolutely. First lap times coming in. Alex Albon, who missed FP1, back in the Williams. He goes to the top. It's 1:26.149, but expect these lap times to drop. More representative session this than FP1 was for the reasons I've already said, with the sun setting, temperatures getting lower. These are exact conditions that will go qualifying and have the Grand Prix on Sunday, on which you can hear in full on 5 Live, building up from midday ahead of a 1 o'clock lights out, and Rosanna Tennant will be calling all the action in the pit lane.
I will, and I hope you'll be calling all the action from the commentary box. I have just watched Oscar Piastri head out in his McLaren on medium tyres. The mechanics were working so fast. My goodness me, it's the 24th race of 24, and they are still putting in a shift. So the car has been put back together, all the little bits put onto the car, little stickers going over little screws and air vents, and he's back out on track, and I'm sure he is eager to get this session underway on what could be a humongous weekend for him.
It could be. He's down on track time, isn't he? But FP1, not the worst session to miss. But Beck, do you think, Oscar Piastri, if he doesn't win the championship, he'll reflect on this year? I think overall it'll still be a magnificent year, but there was that big block wasn't too long ago, where he almost looked like he'd forgotten how to drive at one point, and it's suddenly hemorrhaging points in this championship. But he seems to have refound that form again in Qatar. So how does that happen? How do you suddenly flick a switch like that? Is he just delved in massively with the engineers and dialed in again?
He's talked about it a little bit, actually. As I just mentioned, he came out of the blocks the best. He was the quickest. He was winning the races. It looked like Norris who was struggling, and he really had a grip on this championship. And he has spoken about that loss of form as you talk about the second half of the season. He obviously, and it's easy to forget, the first race back was Zandvoort, which he won. But then we went to Monza, and Monza for me was the turning point in the championship, not just in the McLaren relationship, but in the whole championship, because he was leading in that championship at that point. I think it was 34 points, the gap back down to Norris, and that was where we had the team orders. Norris had that slow pit stop. There had clearly been a conversation that had happened that had said slow pit stops are part of racing, that's not my problem, that's just how it is. Norris had been ahead before said pit stop. Piastri got ahead and was asked to give the place back, and he did it. It was a bit begrudging. From what we understand, there were a fair few conversations that weren't necessarily broadcast over the radio for us to hear, and Piastri has spoken about it since and said, Monza got to me. Because there are the conspiracy theorists in the paddock who think that because of the historic nature of the relationship between Zak Brown, the McLaren CEO, and Lando Norris, they go way back, management days, in his Norris's junior series. People thought that they were favouring Norris, also a British team, obviously Norris a British driver. I honestly do not think that's the case, but it had obviously got into Piastri's head, and he really, really struggled. Next race after that was Singapore, and he had a terrible run, a terrible, terrible run. Vegas wasn't particularly great. Obviously, they were disqualified anyway, so nothing he could have done about that. But then he was utterly dominant in Qatar. So something clearly happened. I don't know. He's not spoken about it. I'm sure at some point it will come out what has gone on. But he clearly hadn't lost his talent. I think that's clear. He is a very, very good driver. If he doesn't win it this season, I am almost certain that he will have another chance at some point. But he did refine his form. It's too late, I think. Although, we'll probably talk about it in this session. The amount of times we've gone in and the third place driver in the championship, I mean, we haven't been here for 15 years having three drivers fighting for the title, but it's not unheard of that the person in third goes on to win the title. So for Piastri, it's too little too late, I suspect, on this occasion. But it's nice. What's really important for him is that he has found his form again. So he comes into this weekend. He was telling us yesterday, I have the least to lose. And he's right. So he may as well just go out there. He may as well have a great time. It does not matter that he missed FP1 at all. They all know this track. We do all sorts here. Apologies if you can hear all the banging in the background, producer Paddy. He knows his track so well. He didn't need the track time. Okay, maybe a bit of a setup of the car, but because the conditions weren't representative of what they're going to be qualifying in and racing in, it's okay. But he will take a lot of confidence from the fact that perhaps even he was questioning, I have no idea, but perhaps even he was saying, oh, Verstappen radio.
You got Norris not opening a lap behind you, but maybe he is coming through.
That's Jean-Pierre Lambiase, Max Verstappen's race engineer, telling him Lando Norris wasn't on a lap, and then realising he was coming through turn one. Verstappen a bit late in the day getting out of the way of Norris. That has actually been noted.
What's this guy doing? Almost crashed.
It's already starting.
I mean, if ever it was the case that the radio messages are for the FIA, that was it, wasn't it?
Goodness. That's noted for impeding, by the way. Bring you up to speed if that elevates any more than that, but it's practice. It usually doesn't, but it's always fun to see how the drivers are talking. Just to come back on Piastri, I just remember, it was Baku, wasn't it? Such an uncharacteristic weekend. Jumped the start, crashed on lap one. Yeah. It was like, who is this driver that where's he come from? Is he a rookie? Well, he's not in the title fight, surely.
And it is only his third season, and you do have to remind yourself he is still he's only 24 years old. He's still so young. He has approached this season with so much maturity. I actually personally found it quite hard to watch that slump in form. My comparison was Rory McIlroy all those years ago on the back nine at the Masters, and that was, it makes it really uncomfortable watching when you can see their confidence ebb away and their belief in themselves it goes. So it's great from outsider's point of view to see him have that confidence back, because no one doubted his ability, absolutely not. But this sport where you are driving at 200 miles an hour plus, hurtling towards concrete walls, it's all about confidence. You have to completely believe not just in yourself but in the car that's underneath you, an issue that they're having at Ferrari. And so for him to have found that now, even if he doesn't win the championship, he can head into next season, head held high, be incredibly proud of what he's achieved, but knowing that whatever that little hiccup was that he just experienced, he overcame it, and he's all the stronger for it.
And really does have the hopes of an entire nation on it with Oscar Piastri, with 49 minutes, 32, 31, 30 seconds left to go. Hadjar has the top time on the soft tyre, 1:24.167, over 3.5 tenths clear of Verstappen, who's on the medium. Behrman's back out there after problems in FP1. The Haas driver's third, ahead of Sainz. Antonelli, Hulkenberg, Norris is seventh, ahead of Leclerc. Russell and Albon at the top 10, with Bortoletto, Tsunoda, Alonso, Piastri down in 14th. Then comes Ocon, Colapinto, Stroll, Hamilton, Lawson and Gasly. On the bias debate, do you think that is completely quashed now, or could it continue to rear its head, very much depending on what happens on Sunday? I mean, as Piastri goes up to 6th, but 9 tenths adrift of Hadjar. I mean, the issue of Oscar Piastri even made it to Australian Parliament this week.
Yeah, he loved that, didn't he? When he was like, "Yeah, I know, I was completely aware of that." He did. He loved that. I think the fairness issue and the case of the bias is actually what got them into such a mess in Qatar, because they were so desperate not to be seen to be favouring anyone. They also didn't want to do the double stack where they bring in Piastri, who was then leading, and Norris, who was third, because Norris would have lost time in the pit stop, being behind and having to wait for however long it would have been needed. They were so desperate not to be seen to be favouring one driver, they got their strategy completely wrong. So there is obviously such a thing as unconscious bias, and I can't speak to that. I have no idea how Zak Brown is feeling on that front. But I think they have tried so hard, and also I think Andrea Stella is the team principal. He is very much the man who is running it day to day, and actually Andrew and I were talking earlier about the team principal press conference, because McLaren were in it, but it wasn't Andrea Stella, the team principal. It was Zak Brown who was fielding the questions, trying as much as possible to take any pressure he can away from the race team, away from the guy who's in charge of all of those massive decisions. And so I don't think Stella is biased. I don't actually think Zak Brown is biased. I think when you work in racing and in sport, you just want to win. And I think at this stage, they probably don't really care who wins. They're just like, please just let it be one of ours.
Well, they'll find out on Sunday afternoon. A bit of action out on track. Franco Colapinto's just locked up and run deep at turn 6 and 7 chicane after coming down the back straight. Hadjar still holds the fastest time, 34 thousandths of a second ahead of Behrman. So going out early for a bit of soft tyre running. We've got the C3 acting as the hard tyre, the C4 as the medium, and the C5 as the soft. So it's the usual tyres that we've seen here. Worth noting that actually the run from turn 1 through to turn 4 has been resurfaced for this year, and can suffer throughout the race with a bit of thermal deg, but historically a one-stop strategy, something to keep an eye on as we head towards Sunday's options. Hadjar topping the session, missed FP1. Oh no, he didn't, he was in FP1. It was Lawson who missed FP1. So Hadjar back again for FP2, but in his final race weekend as a Racing Bulls driver, gets the well-deserved promotion to Red Bull for next year. Will he be different? Will his outcome be different than what has happened to Tsunoda, Lawson, Perez, Albon, Gasly? Maybe throw Ricciardo in there as well.
The thing is, they all believe it will be.
Yeah.
They do genuinely believe that they will be the one who will be Verstappen's teammate, who will maybe not give him a run for his money, given he's probably the greatest driver of his generation, and the team do favour him. There is bias there, absolutely there is. But Hadjar was very interesting in the press conference as well, because it was the first time we had spoken to him since he was announced as being promoted to alongside Verstappen next season. And there wasn't any giddiness or unbridled excitement. It was all very much, I was good enough to get it. This is where I belong. He's only been in the sport for one season, and he was as self-assured as I have ever seen anybody, that he absolutely deserves his place next to Verstappen. He really believes that he will be exactly where the team need him to be. He was quite clear. He said, Marco told me I've got promotion and then I have to deliver. He obviously didn't say what that was, but it's got to be better than what Yuki Tsunoda has done. It is a poison chalice, some people think. No one has been able to step up. It always asks the question, doesn't it? How good is the Red Bull? How bad is the Red Bull? If the Red Bull's bad, how good is Verstappen? I mean, he's unbelievable, really. But yeah, Hadjar is absolutely convinced that he is the man for the job. But I've heard that before.
Well, I suppose one thing that helps him is it's a blank slate next year, isn't it? Rip up the rule book for the regulations, so it won't be a Max Verstappen orientated car and following where he wants the development to go, because he gets the most out of the car, so naturally they'll follow that development path. So that could be something, at least at the start of the year, that may well help his transition into the team.
Is that they designed the car to be the fastest it can be. That's how it hits the ground in pre-season testing. Then the drivers drive it and give their feedback. And inevitably the engineers follow the feedback of the driver who's fastest. And the driver who's fastest is almost certainly going to be Verstappen. And he says, I want more front end. I want more front end. I want more front end. He keeps saying that. That's how he likes to drive the car. And the problem is that it takes a lot of talent to drive a car with a loose rear end. And be able to balance it, without losing the rear effectively on corner entry, because it's all about how much speed you can carry in on corner entry. With they call it rotation, it's the point where you turn the wheel, how quickly you can get it pointed in the right direction, basically heading towards the apex, and therefore how quickly you can get on the throttle after that and carry speed out to the corner. But you have to have incredible skills to be able to balance that corner entry phase. And that's what the other drivers at Red Bull haven't been able to do. And the same thing, you see the same thing up and down the grid, not perhaps to the same extent, with all teammates who are slower than the other teammates. It's all about that thing. And Hadjar will only be able to compete if he can cope with the car going in that direction. He was saying yesterday, he thinks his driving style's similar to Max Verstappen's, but we'll find out next year, won't we?
Well, 5 Live's Steve Crossman is in Abu Dhabi with us, and he asked in the press conference to Max Verstappen, what does he want from a teammate? And the first thing Verstappen said was, someone who can help me develop the car. I mean, that's literally what he said. And then he said, look, we don't need to be best friends, but I'd like to get along. We have to be able to work together. I want someone who can help push the team forward. He was quite clear, and if you wanted to read between the lines, a bit scathing about certain teammates that he's had. But I thought that was really interesting, because he is, and he probably does feel it, that he's carrying that team on his own. You only have to look at the points that he has won for the team versus what Yuki Tsunoda has done, and it is unbelievable. I mean, he has single-handedly got Red Bull into third in the Constructors' Championship. In the previous few years, he's almost single-handedly won Red Bull the Constructors' Championship. He does need a bit of help.
I mean, just looking at Hadjar in the point scores, 51 points. He sits inside the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Could still be in the running to finish inside the top 8. He's got 2 Williams drivers ahead of him. So just to be in that remarkable position, you go down his teammate, Liam Lawson, down in 14th position with 38 points, who's only just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, 33 points. Compare that to Max Verstappen's 396. I mean, it's a stark contrast, Rosanna, isn't it?
Sorry, I was just trying to get out of the way of Lando Norris doing a pit stop practice. So do throw me that question again, Harry.
Well, it wasn't really a question. It was just more, it's a stark contrast Verstappen's constantly had with whoever sits on the other side of the garage.
Yeah, and I think what Isaac Hadjar was saying yesterday is that he wants to be part of that change. So that's music to Max Verstappen's ears. He was saying if the car goes in one direction, at least I'll be there to feel the change and ideally contribute to it. So that... Is there a bit of radio there?
No, you're all good.
So that would be the ideal scenario. That's what Isaac was saying. And I think also he was trying to big up his adaptability and flexibility, saying, he's never repeated a year. He's very good at changing and adapting. He's never done the same thing twice. So he's feeling pretty confident. But I think also he does understand that it may well be frustrating the first part of the season next year. And I think that is actually a good way to go into the season, knowing that you're up against a 4, potentially 5-time world champion. Because I think that frustration, especially for someone like Isaac Hadjar, who we know runs fairly hot when it comes to emotions, I think it's good that he's already aware of that, so he can get a handle on that frustration early doors and channel it in the best way possible.
Indeed. It's promotion then for Hadjar next year, so that will be a storyline to follow. And in his place, the young British Formula 2 driver Arvid Lindblad, who we saw in FP1, gets his shot, and he'll line up alongside Liam Lawson at Racing Bulls.
The car is definitely feeling much more together. Probably the majority from the wind shift.
George Russell saying the car feeling much more together, but perhaps down to the wind direction changing slightly. Track temperature 29 degrees, wind speed about just over 6 kilometres an hour. But this is the sound of Albon just bouncing his way through the turn 6-7 chicane. Alex Albon left a very nice message on Yuki Tsunoda's Instagram post saying it's not the end for Yuki Tsunoda, and Albon knows what it's like to be dropped by Red Bull and go away for a year, then come back. For Tsunoda, is this the end? It's demotion. He stays within the Red Bull family, but is there a way back for Tsunoda, or is he confined to Red Bull reserve and then eventually just sliding out the back door?
I can't predict the future, Harry, but his average qualifying deficit to Max Verstappen is 0.644 seconds over the season. It's more than double the next, not quite more than double, nearly double the next biggest gap between teammates, which is?
Stroll and Alonso.
Good. Well done.
Stroll being the slower.
Yes. And that's bigger than any of Verstappen's teammates. Even the ones who really struggled, like Albon struggled, Gasly struggled, they were all around a half-second area. Perez was more like sort of 3.5 tenths. Ricciardo ended up at about 2 tenths off in his final season at Red Bull. Obviously in 2016 he was slightly quicker on average in qualifying while Verstappen was still developing. So I would say that there's not a lot of appetite for Yuki Tsunoda elsewhere in Formula 1. And although he is a Honda driver, or he was a Honda driver, so maybe one day it's not impossible he could end up in a reserve role in Honda's team, which is going to be Aston Martin from next year. But is it likely he's going to get a seat back on the grid with another team? No. Is it likely he's going to be given a Red Bull drive? Well, not unless someone falls over and breaks the leg in the shower, I don't think.
It's possible.
It's not impossible, but it's unlikely.
I mean, I agree. He's going out the back door, isn't he?
It just feels, it's not a complete drop. You're still keeping him in the garage, aren't you?
I don't want to be cruel, right? But David Coulthard once said on air 2 or 3 years ago, it was like Tsunoda's second year or something, he said, Tsunoda, we know, is just passing through Formula 1, which was a good way of putting it. He's not someone who's going to stick. I think he's done well to stick as long as he has. I think he's probably only stuck as long as he has because he's got Honda backing or has had Honda backing. And in that context, David Coulthard, I think it's fair enough to think he's a pretty decent judge of a racing driver. And he's also very close to Red Bull, of course. Having been their first driver in Formula 1 and still working for the team in various capacities. So I think that sums it up nicely.
Well, Tsunoda, speak of, has just crossed the line and gone 15th. He's about a second off down on the medium tyre. Teammate Max Verstappen up in 5th, 4 tenths off of Ollie Bearman, who's flying at the moment, but he is on the soft tyre. 1:23.968, nearly 2 tenths clear of Hadjar. Then comes Norris in 3rd, Leclerc is 4th, Verstappen 5th ahead of Ocon. Piastri's up to 7th, about 4.5 tenths off at the moment. Russell and Sainz and Alonso the top 10. Then comes Bortoletto, Antonelli, Stroll, Albon and Tsunoda the top 15. Lewis Hamilton is actually the sound you can hear now in his Ferrari, back in the car, making his way through turn 14, getting mightily close to the wall on the exit there. 17th for Hülkenberg. Lawson is 18th with the 2 Alpines. Gasly back in the car and Colapinto down in 20th as Hamilton puts himself up into 9th, and he is one man that will certainly be looking to turn over a fresh page for 2026. Let's see what Ferrari deliver him. But as well as scrutiny on the drivers, I was actually reading a stat about Charles Leclerc, who's making his 150th start for Ferrari this weekend, and I sort of looked at that and went, wow, he's only behind Kimi Räikkönen and Michael Schumacher, who've made that many starts for that team. But the proportion of race wins and championships is a stark contrast for Charles Leclerc, and you think, is it not a bit miserable for the monogas racer who how long does he stay there before he starts looking elsewhere to try and win a world championship with someone?
I mean, he came in a real blaze of glory. He won F3 and F2 back-to-back. He was the first driver to do that, and few have done it since. But including George Russell the years after him. But yeah, he came in, he joined Sauber, the kind of junior team to Ferrari as it was then, and then was promoted fairly quickly up to Ferrari. Everybody who spoke about him or wrote about him always added in the extra tidbit that, you know, future world champion in waiting. And he is excellent. He is absolutely excellent. He has this very unfortunate record of a lot of pole positions but not a lot of race wins, which Andrew Benson likes to say it's because he's just so fast over a Saturday. I think, don't you consider him the fastest over one lap, Benny?
I think there's a case to be made. I would also say about that offset, when you actually drill down into the reasons why he's not been able to convert those poles into wins, it's nothing to do with him.
No.
There's been one or two where he's had a crash in 2022, but like 95% of them was something to do with the fact that he's qualified the Ferrari higher than it should be, and it's just not been able to sustain that position in the race effectively, or the team have messed up in some way or another.
Charles Leclerc, 27 pole positions in his career, 8 victories for the Monegasque, of which none have come this year. Ferrari looking to go winless for the first time since 2021. Lewis Hamilton looking to go podiumless for the first time in his career. 2026 can't come quick enough. Right, we are 33 minutes and 47, 46, 45 seconds into this free practice 2 session, and Max Verstappen has bolted on the soft tyre and gone quickest with a 1:23.446. He's joined up there by Isaac Hadjar, who's 2/10 off him in second. That puts Behrman and Ocon down to third and fourth. We'll see what Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri end up going to do as well. And the fast laps are coming in, and we'll also then, as we get into the closing stages, get a look at where the race pace might stack up.
I have to say, so far today, the Sauber has looked particularly quick. From Nico Hülkenberg particularly. He's just gone second. Maybe Verstappen made a mistake on his soft tyre lap, but Hülkenberg's just over a tenth behind Max Verstappen's Red Bull. This Sciences Radio.
I had a weird snap turn too. Yeah, weird. Okay, we're checking.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz wrestling his Williams through the fast sweepers of the left of 2, which feed you into the right of turn 3, and nearly a collision in the pit lane between Ollie Behrman and one of the Saubers.
Unsafe release from the Sauber.
And Ollie Behrman referring Gabriel Bortoletto to the stewards for that one. By the way, that incident involving Verstappen and Norris for impeding in turn 1, as we would expect in practice, not being investigated any further than that. But yeah, the Saubers are looking quick. Nico Hülkenberg, 250th race start on Sunday. And we bid farewell to Sauber as well, who will become Audi next year. Same driver lineup for them, but a full works team with an Audi engine as well. So that's going to be a really interesting story to see how they actually get on next year.
Also, Sauber, who have been in the sport 33 seasons, Peter Sauber is there in the garage, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Who founded the team?
No, absolutely. 3 decades in Formula One. Incredible stint. George Russell is on the soft tyre and has just been demoted to 10th actually, but he's on a quick lap at the moment. Personal best through sector 1 for Russell, 17.1 and 2/10 off coming through the middle sector off of Max Verstappen's fastest middle sector. Bit of traffic as he carves his way through the ever tightening right-hander of turn 15, slows through the 90-degree right of turn 12, then he makes his way underneath the hotel section. Slow and technical, 13 and 14, getting oh so close to the outside barrier. Now winds it round the final 2 corners. Double right-handers of 15 and 16. Runs out wide, but keeps it just about within track limits. Fastest of anybody in the final sector, but only enough for second. Just 16 thousandths of a second, though, separating Max Verstappen and George Russell as Kimi Antonelli comes across the line in 5th, about 3/10 adrift. I wonder, we talk so much about the title fight with Verstappen, Piastri and Norris. There could be a George Russell spanner in the works along the way on Sunday.
Say again, sorry, I had producer Paddy in my ear.
Oh, producer Paddy.
Sorry.
There could be a George Russell spanner in the works on Sunday.
I mean, he's been brilliant this season, hasn't he? He has been fantastic. He is currently 3rd fastest on that set of softs. He's already secured 4th in the championship, which is probably, if you're not going to be the champion, where you want to finish. Otherwise, you have to go to the FIA dinner, which is in, I think it's in Uzbekistan next Friday. So the drivers don't particularly enjoy that. Kimi Raikkonen was the most vocally against it. But he has been fantastic this season. I think he has outperformed that Mercedes. I don't think it's always been a great car. We know it performs well in the cold conditions or cooler conditions, I should say. But actually, they seem to have got that Mercedes to work at different types of tracks. And for me, we spoke about Kimi Antonelli, his teammate, a bit earlier, who has had a bit of a roller coaster of a season, but is finishing very strongly, actually. For me, George Russell, who we used to nickname Mr. Saturday, particularly when he was at Williams, because he is very, very fast over a Saturday. He's now just Mr. Consistent, isn't he? That's his new nickname. I think if Mercedes can deliver him the car that is being rumoured, or Alpine radio.
There's something wrong with the engine. Are we acknowledging that, or are we thinking there's something wrong?
We've made some changes in the background.
Alex Albon thinking there's something wrong with his engine and liaising with his team, who reply with they've made some changes in the background. So Albon not feeling too comfortable in his Williams currently. Albon is currently down in 11th spot. Teammate Sainz up in 10th.
Yeah, just to finish that point on Russell, if Mercedes can deliver the car that is being rumoured up and down the paddock, that they have produced the fastest car from everything, all the readings out that they're getting at the moment, obviously nothing has hit the track yet, then it's going to be a great fight between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. And I think, this time next year, maybe even earlier, we'll be talking about George Russell being in that championship fight. Pretty
sure on our Thursday preview show, which you can listen to on BBC Sounds with Steve Crossman hosting, that you said George Russell's going to be world champion next year.
I can see it, yes. I mean, I probably shouldn't pin my colours to the mast quite so early. I mean, talk about silly season.
Bold. I mean, look, the talk is up and down the pit lane that Mercedes have developed the best engine for the new regulations. So that's what people think. But of course, it's a bit more complicated than that, because you've got to put the engine in a car, and you've also got to fuel it with sustainable fuel, which is, the formulas for which are being developed by the individual fuel manufacturers. So you don't, just because you've got the best engine doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the World Championship. However, and there's also a lot of energy management going to be involved next year, even more than this year, because the hybrid part of the engine is nearly 50% of the total power output. So it's an intriguing prospect, which we don't need to talk about now because it's not 2026 yet. But don't forget that McLaren also have a Mercedes engine, and Alpine also. They've been, although we heard a good stat last night, didn't we, Beck, that Alpine have become the first team ever to secure last place in the championship before the last race.
And I think they've scored the most amount of points than any last place team ever has.
Took so much joy from that stat, Benny.
Just thought it was funny in a
not
sad
funny way.
Yeah, exactly.
It will be the 771st and final Grand Prix on Sunday for a Renault powered car. The Renault engine will be no more as Alpine forgo works status and take on a Mercedes power unit for next year. So if that Mercedes power unit comes good, well, Alpine suddenly might find themselves a little higher up the order than the 19th and 20th that they currently are. 1.7 and 1.9 seconds off the pace, Colapinto and Gasly. Norris, though, to the top of the times. He's on another outlap at the moment, a 1:23.083, 3.5 tenths clear of Max Verstappen. Russell up to third. Behrman has been looking quick. So too, as Andrew was saying, the Saubers. Be interesting to follow that progress, because Hülkenberg and Bortoleto are both quick in FP1 actually. We always take FP1 with a pinch of salt. But if you're delivering in FP2, as the floodlights are now on and the sun goes from the bright blue skies that broke out in the gap between FP1 and now to a growing darker sky and just an orange glow coming between the cracks in the clouds as the sun fully sets over this Yas Marina circuit. Hülkenberg and Bortoleto are 5th and 6th, just behind Behrman. Hadjar's been quick too. He's up in 7th. Leclerc's down in 8th, ahead of Antonelli, but they're both on outlaps once again. So we're going to see another run of soft tyres coming at you now. Piastri is in 10th. Needs to show a little bit more pace, I think, Oscar Piastri, just to feel comfortable there as he's dialing in to that car, having missed FP1. Sainz, Alonso, Hamilton, Albon and Stroll, the top 15, with Ocon, Tsunoda, Lawson and those two Alpines right at the back. A little bit of a snap for George Russell. Makes an adjustment on the steering wheel as he applies the throttle. Gets up to over 250 kilometres an hour as he heads down the straight towards the left-hander of turn number 9. Actually lost a huge chunk of time in that middle sector, but looks like he's sticking on with this lap, as this is the sound of George Russell up to 6th gear as he then eases down through the gears. He's not pushing on this soft tyre run now as he makes his way through 12, 13 and 14. Somebody who is trying to push is Alex Albon, who has been rather put in the shadow a little bit by Carlos Sainz over the last half of the season, would you say, Beck?
Yeah, I mean, as expected, it takes a bit of time, no matter how good a driver you are, to bed yourself into a new team. Carlos Sainz fairly unceremoniously dumped from Ferrari, but to his credit, he was replaced by a 7-time world champion in Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz, slow start. Alex Albon I actually really rate. We spoke about him at Red Bull and he did struggle, but only because he was thrown in far too early. He wasn't ready. It was too early on in his career. But I think he's a very good, very solid driver. But it is Carlos Sainz now who's coming through. I mean, what money would you have had on the fact that Carlos Sainz, leaving Ferrari to go to Williams, would have 2 podiums and Hamilton wouldn't have paid it a visit?
It's incredible, really. I mean, Sainz getting a podium in Qatar, I think, was unexpected even for him.
Yes.
But it was an incredible qualifying for him in Baku, and they prioritised, or they managed to make gains when other top teams, the McLarens didn't quite perform that weekend, and they managed to stay in the fight, and overtaking proved trickier than it was. But Sainz has that engineering mindset, doesn't he, that just is able to put him in positions and keep him in positions where others might not have the brain capacity to do so if they don't have the car underneath them either. So I think what this says is, for Carlos Sainz and Williams, I mean, the turnaround even for this year, I don't think we were expecting quite the rise up. They've cemented 5th in the Constructors now. Yeah,
and I think a lot of credit has to go to James Vowles, the team principal there, who has been brilliant. He was obviously the chief strategist at Mercedes during all of their glory years, when Lewis Hamilton was winning everything in the drivers, and they won 8 consecutive Constructors championships. He's gone in. He's changed around the management structure. He's changed the culture. I mean, that can't be done quickly. That's a fairly slow-moving thing. But already, everyone seems so much happier in that team. He is, speaking to the owners a lot, making them be realistic about when they will be fighting for championships, because it's not going to be any time in the next couple of years. And managing expectations, saying what kind of investment is needed to build this team up. And no, I completely agree with you, Harry. No one was expecting them to be finishing 5th and to have sealed it. I mean, it's done and dusted already. It's comfortably theirs. And I think a lot of that credit has to go to James Vowles. And I think we've spoken about it a lot today, actually, with the likes of Carlos Sainz and, Max Verstappen saying, what does he want from a teammate? Feedback. And the feedback that drivers are able to give to their team, and hopefully the team listen, which is maybe not the case at Ferrari at the moment. It's so important that every single department within a team gels together, they listen to each other. No one department is more important than the other, and they all seem to be working so well. They've knitted together really well, and at the helm of that is James Vowles, and he's, it's a great team. It's great to watch. Oh, it was Behrman Radio.
Mate, the car is insane. I don't know how it's so good.
That's Ollie Behrman saying his car is insane. I don't know how it's so good. He's up in 4th. He's only 4/10 off of Lando Norris. We've just been watching, while Beck was talking, Oscar Piastri's lap. Did he get a little bit blocked coming in the middle sector? Because he lost a couple of tenths there at lock-up for Oscar Piastri coming into turn 6, because he did lose a little bit of time coming through that middle sector, and the front left tyre paying for it as well for the Australian, because he's nearly 7 tenths down in 10th place at the moment, while teammate Norris sitting pretty at the top of the timings.
Yeah, that was it for Williams. I'm done.
Yeah, we'll take that. Well done, Williams. 5th place. Congratulations. There is still a bit of a battle going on in the midfield. Racing Bulls are currently 6th. Aston Martin 7th. Haas 8th. Sauber 9th. So if one of them gets a dramatic result, we could see a change around there. Indeed, actually, Haas are only a point behind Aston Martin, so it doesn't need to be too dramatic on that front. And if Ollie Behrman is saying he's got an absolute insane car underneath him, then that could spell trouble for Aston Martin. And as we've said, Alpine will already have confirmed last in the Constructors. So first and last confirmed in the Constructors, and now we're filling in the middle part of this 2025 Constructors Championship 2. Word on Haas, actually, just as Hamilton is starting a lap on the soft tyre. Are they going to become Toyota eventually?
It does seem like it's heading that way, doesn't it? There was a big sponsorship announcement, a title sponsor. They've kind of been in the background anyway, haven't they? They're just elevating how visible they are within the sport. you wouldn't be surprised. You see all of these manufacturers, huge name manufacturers coming in who want to be part of this sport. You know, we've got Cadillac coming in as a brand new team next season. We've already spoken about Audi coming in, taking over from Sauber. We have the big names of Ferrari, Mercedes. They're all in it already. So actually, you can fully imagine with what's happening, and you have to explain, sort of Benny touched on it a bit earlier, these sustainable fuels, how they're developing their cars. They're using Formula One as their shop window, and a lot of what they're creating on track, they then put into their road cars, and then they sell them to the likes of, well, I'm not buying Ferraris, but maybe an Audi. Other cars are available.
Steady on.
But, you know, that they're trying to translate what you're watching on track into the road cars that we're all driving. And I think that's why it's working for the manufacturers. And actually, the revolution into electric cars, I'm not being political about this, but that's perhaps not happened at the pace that people are expecting. I can only speak from the UK point of view, but obviously the infrastructure isn't quite where it needs to be for a lot of the promises or targets that the governments have. And so what's happening, what we're seeing is that these hybrid cars, and like Andrew says, 50% has been made up of the hybrid. That's huge. And I think what the story that isn't always well told or doesn't necessarily translate to the people watching, or perhaps they're just not interested in it, which I can also understand, is that these are unbelievably efficient cars, and they're spending all this money, R&D, researching and developing their cars and what they're creating here. They want that back on their cars, back on their road cars. And so yes, I can fully imagine Toyota coming in full time and taking it over as a works team. It is an enormous sum of money to develop your own engine, as Cadillac and Audi are finding out. So perhaps you become a engine customer for a while. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more big announcements coming.
Even down to their livery. It's looking very Toyota racing, isn't it? Very similar to their World Endurance Championship livery. Ollie Behrman has just sat in his Haas car with his performance engineer alongside him as he comes in from a bit of a break from fourth place currently in this practice session. Esteban Ocon, his teammate, bit of work to do. Esteban Ocon is out there down in 15th at the moment. 18 minutes and 14 seconds on the clock to go in this free practice one session as Carlos Sainz starts a lap on the soft tyre. Let's check in down on pit lane with Rosanna Tennant.
Well, it's just gotten a little busier. It was quite quiet down here in the pit lane, but a Ferrari has just come past me into its pit box, and I'm standing outside the McLaren garage where both drivers, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, are sitting in their cars. The tyres have just been bolted on to Norris's car. Oscar Piastri is already and set to go, and I assume they're just waiting for the optimum time to head out and finish off this FP2 session. No dramas going on in the garage, just mechanics waiting patiently, one folding up a little cloth, giving the side pod a little clean. Can't let standards slip, can we, on the 24th race of the year? So everything looking all right in the McLaren garage at the moment.
Lovely work. Thank you very much, Rosanna. Can't let standards slip, and that applies to the entire 5 Live production team as well. So we'll make sure everyone's on sharp form, please.
That's why you're replacing me after today.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca Clancy. I'm afraid we've given you a good run out. The voice, though, just starting to go slightly.
End of the day, it's late here. What can I say? Producer Paddy's got the aircon on full blast.
We're going to replace you, and we actually, I think we're going to have to call it an upgrade. I'm sorry. It's
fine.
It's going to be 1996 F1 World Champion Damon Hill. So
it's quite the upgrade. I'll take it. It's like being Carlos Sainz being replaced by Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, but who knows? You could go on and get a couple of podiums.
But is that an upgrade back?
Oh, Andrew Benson, you just come right in at the end.
Not Damon, I didn't mean. Just to be clear, I meant the other thing.
You're going to get yourself in trouble here, Benny.
Can we also contextualise this? Are you feeling the pressure with your replacement sat right behind you?
Oh, he sat right behind you, to be fair. He's just out the corner of my eye.
Right, yes, that will be from Saturday onwards. So we'll have FP3, of course. That will be on Sports Extra 2. So that'll be in the morning, 25 past 10, ahead of 10:30 for green light. And then that all-important qualifying on Sports Extra 1:55 on Saturday, ahead of the green light coming on at 2 o'clock. The race, all 58 laps of it, will be on 5 Live. We're going to have a big build-up with Steve Crossman, 5 Live Sport, coming from Abu Dhabi, building up from midday, lights out from 1 o'clock, and that will be decision day and our 3-way title fight in the desert between Lando Norris, Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri, with Norris right now leading the way in FP1 by 0.08 of a second. Now as the track lights come on, the sun does set, and it's a dark blue sky overhead surrounds this Yas Marina circuit. He leads FP2 by over 3.5 tenths of a second. Verstappen second, Russell third. Then comes Behrman, Hulkenberg and Bortoleto are the top 6, with Hadjar, Leclerc, Alonso and Antonelli the top 10. Piastri down in 11th. He's on the soft tyres, just about to have another out lap, so he had a lock up last lap around. So let's see if he can have a clean lap this time. We can actually get a reading on where he compares at this stage. Stroll, Sainz, Hamilton, Albon the top 15, Ocon, Tsunoda, Lawson and the 2 Alpines, Colapinto and Gasly, 19th and 20th. It's been an intriguing session for Max Verstappen. Andrew, what have you gleaned so far?
Well, he's obviously 3 tenths off Lando Norris in terms of outright pace on the soft tyre, but most drivers are now just going out on their race simulation tyres, but he's already been out for 7 laps on the medium tyre doing his race run. So, but in a few laps' time, we'll get a sense of how everyone else compares with him. But it's interesting that Red Bull have gone so much earlier than everybody else. He's been doing it for like 10 minutes or so, and he was only just getting going.
Why would they?
I guess they want to make sure the car's in the best place it possibly can be for the race. This gives them a chance to run 2 sets of tyres properly rather than 1 set of tyres. Would be 2 possible options.
Focus more on the race than qualifying?
Exactly, but ideally, obviously, you control the race by qualifying on pole and getting into the first corner first, so I don't know.
Well, ask them.
Yeah.
Come on, journalists, you've got to ask them these questions.
Can't ask them now. Rosanna could. She's down there.
Yeah, Rosanna could. We should have a little button so we can talk to them
Rosanna,
directly.
could you plug into the Red Bull pit wall, please, right now? How difficult do you think that would be?
I've actually spoken to the drivers while they're out on track. Back in the day, do you remember Driver of the Day? I used to have to ring up the driver, Sebastian Vettel, when he was like, "How did you get my number in Baku?"
Oh, sorry, Rosanna, we weren't ignoring you. There was team radio there, but it didn't play out.
I had just told Kimmy I'd be on the radio. If he could just not interrupt me, that would be great.
Oh, yes, Sebastian, where was that? Was that Baku when he won the race?
Yeah, that was Baku, and he came back really slowly into Parc Ferme, and the engineer was like, "Go ahead." And I was like, "Oh yeah, please may I speak to Vettel?" And he's like, ages went by, and he's like, "Go ahead." I was like, "Oh, you meant to talk to Vettel, sorry." So it had to be a very quick one as he pulled up to the cone in Parc Ferme, but that was fun. I've done it with Charles Leclerc as well in Portimao back in the day. Had a chat with him. That was just to test whether the tech worked, and it did. I was in Biggin Hill, where Formula One's based in the UK, and they were bouncing me out to Portugal and then out onto the track.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
They do it in IndyCar, don't they, where they talk to the drivers direct?
Just come to me for world first in F1.
Exactly. Well, you were the first ever lead female Formula One commentator, weren't you, Rosanna?
I was, yeah. First woman to ever call a race start. But look, what of it? Let's not talk about all my successes here.
No, let's carry on. No. Thank you, Rosanna Tennant from the pit lane, hanging around the McLaren garage at the moment for us. And a hive of activity out on track, because pretty much everybody is on the circuit, with the exception of the 2 Aston Martins who are in the pit lane right now. Ollie Behrman has been flying so far in this session, currently in 4th, still on that soft tyre, and he's got a Sauber right behind him in the form of Nico Hulkenberg, and they're having a little fight into turn 4. Hulkenberg has to ease off onto the brakes and not try and find a move through there, as they now head into the hotel section, slowing it down, tight and technical underneath the W Hotel Bridge through the left-hander of turn 14, which almost invites you into the outside barrier before you bring the car back over to the left-hand side, ready to turn it in for the right-hander of turn 15, then slow it all down for the final corner, the right-hander of turn number 16, and you cross the line and you start another lap of this Yas Marina circuit. And Behrman on a long run at the moment, but so far showing some incredible pace in that Haas. 11 minutes and 20, 19, 18, 17 seconds remain. It's Norris on top ahead of Verstappen, Russell, Behrman, Hulkenberg the top 5, Bortoleto is 6th, Hadjar is in 7th ahead of Leclerc, Alonso, Antonelli the top 10, then comes Piastri down in 11th, Stroll 12th, Sainz 13th, Hamilton, Albon the top 15, Ocon, Tsunoda, Lawson, Colapinto and Gasly the remaining drivers. Is this worrying territory for Oscar Piastri to be in at this stage? Nearly 7 tenths off of Lando Norris, down in 11th spot.
It's absolutely not where he wants to be, that's for sure. We'll get a bit more info when Andrew does the best bit of the weekend. but it is, it's not great. He missed FP1. I don't think that's relevant at this point. Rosanna was saying just before the session started that his car was in bits, so maybe there's a bit of an issue somewhere. We will hear it, we'll get some quotes fed to us by the team after this, so I'm not sure we'll actually find out what's going on. But he's in 11th. It's 6/10. It's a long way back, isn't it, when Norris, your rival, who's fighting for the World Championship, is quickest at the moment. Verstappen second. He has it all to lose. He has the least to lose, but it looks like it's not going quite his way so far this weekend.
Rosanna, what do you make of it?
Well, if we cast our minds back before the slump in performance from Oscar Piastri this season, we used to always say how well he did at building through a weekend. So I don't think all is lost, even though he's just in P11 at the moment. And I do think he builds through a weekend. So he'll be hoping he can do what he used to do very, very well at the start of this season and just find his feet and then deliver when it counts towards the pointy end of the weekend.
Well, he's just started another lap, but we won't see an improvement because he's into his long runs now on the medium tyres. He slows it down for turn 1. But when we did see him on that soft tyre, well, he locked up, didn't he, into the chicane at the end of the back straight and lost a chunk of time there, a couple of tenths in the middle sector off of Lando Norris. So maybe not quite there, missed FP1, still dialing in, but turns it in for the left-hander of 5, and he now hurtles down the 1.2 kilometre back straight before the heavy braking zone of turn 6.
If you're a cynic, which I'm often paid to be, if you're Zach Brown and Andrea Stella looking at this and thinking, if he's off the pace this weekend, then we don't have to make any difficult calls.
You're not a cynic though, are you?
No, absolutely not, no.
Oscar Piastri sitting third in the Drivers' Championship at the 2 times. Well, we've had 3 or more drivers in the title fight. 2007, 2010. The man that has come through to win the championship has been the man that has entered the final race in 3rd spot. In 2007, it was Kimi Raikkonen overcoming the 2 McLarens of Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. And in 2010, it was Sebastian Vettel overcoming Fernando Alonso and Mark Webber. Mark Webber, who manages Oscar Piastri, is here this weekend. I saw him in the paddock earlier, deep in conversation with somebody, and no doubt trying to keep it cool and calm, not only for himself, but for his driver that he has backed all the way to the very top here in Formula One.
Where's this Ferrari?
Leclerc. The big Leclerc.
Gabriel Bortoletto down at Sauber is asking who the Ferrari is in front of him, and the big Leclerc. I don't know if that's a reference to the fact we had both Leclercs in FP1 and the little one was called Junior.
Don't you have to still call him Big Leclerc now?
No, we're down to 1, so it's fine.
Surely it'd be Senior.
Yeah, exactly.
They're about the same. Actually, I think Arthur's taller. Anyway.
Gabby Bortoletto, he's having a decent session, along with his teammate. Both Hülkenberg and Bortoletto are 5th and 6th right now. And for Bortoletto, looking to try and finish off strong after an up and down rookie campaign. Indeed, it can still all change for Sauber in their farewell to Formula One. They're only 5 points behind Haas for 8th in the championship, who themselves are only 1 point behind Aston Martin. So the battle for 7th is still on. It could still go to 6th, Racing Bulls, but they've got a bit more of a gap there, 16 points between themselves and Aston Martin. So Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar hoping for a strong outing. But for Sauber, if they can get a double points finish here, well, they haven't scored in Abu Dhabi since 2018. And this will be their last race where they are known as Sauber before the Audi transformation comes in and we get another works entry onto the grid, an engine maker as well. Cadillac will form up on the grid with Sergio Perez back in Formula One alongside Valtteri Bottas, who was in his final weekend back at Mercedes in his reserve driver role. Cadillac, though, not quite there with their own engine. They'll take the Ferrari power unit before they eventually enter a full works team and an engine supplier from the General Motors group. But the constant expansion in America not going unnoticed in Formula One. Max Verstappen saying the car is bouncing there too much in turn 3. So it's another Friday then where Max Verstappen isn't completely settled at the moment. He is also out there on his long run pace, just making his way through the left-hander of turn 9.
It is scientifically proven that the more Max Verstappen moans on a Friday, the more he wins by on a Sunday. Did you know that?
I do now.
There you go. he does love a moan on a Friday, doesn't he? And then the car's never right. It's never set up how he wants. But he is a perfectionist. He is a 4-time world champion, so I wouldn't expect anything less from him.
No, not at all. And round the final corner for Max Verstappen with just under 5.5 minutes remaining. Still in second. After the quick laps early doors, it's Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Behrman and Hulkenberg, the top 5. Piastri made a mistake on his fast run, is down in 11th.
Now look, you may look at the leaderboard and think that it's exciting that 2 of the title protagonists are first and second. But let me tell you what the most exciting thing is this weekend. He is not just passing through Formula One. He is the sage, the oracle, the king, the one who will predict and tell us all how it's going to unfold. I can already feel the sadness that I'm not going to hear it again until March. It is time for everyone's favourite part of the weekend. It is
Long Run Corner with Andrew Benson.
You can go the distance, we'll find out in the long run. In the long run.
Yeah, I think you went slightly over the top there with that one, Beck.
I was told to egg it up. I was told to go all in.
You
I can but deliver.
You definitely went all in. Now, look, you were talking about excitement. Now, it's 3.5 tenths between Norris and Verstappen on single lap pace. But like for like, length of run for length of run, on race pace, Norris is faster by 0.04 seconds. It couldn't be closer. Oscar Piastri's had a slightly up and down run. It looks like he can do a lap time that's in the same ballpark as Verstappen and Norris, but he's not been doing it consistently. So it's on race pace, and this is normally where you get the actual comparison of pace rather than the qualifying laps, qualifying simulation laps, I should say. There's absolutely nothing to choose between them, but if anyone has a slight edge, it's Lando Norris. Not really anybody else is in the game. Although, believe it or not, Lewis Hamilton's actually looking quite quick in the Ferrari, as is Charles Leclerc, definitely ahead of the Mercedes at the moment.
Oh, wow, okay.
God, you never let us down, Benny, do you?
That's the way I like it.
That was exciting.
I'm glad you thought so.
Yeah, so Lando Norris, world champion. We can all go home.
We could do.
You said it.
Wow, what an occasion that was. Thank you very much, Andrew Benson, for your hard work this year with Long Run Corner. So, it's tight at the top between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, with Oscar Piastri not far away and with more to come the way of the young Australian. Not quite there yet consistently. And could the Ferraris actually spring a surprise? And, well, best Mercedes. They are technically still embroiled in a fight for runners-up in the championship, but Lewis Hamilton isn't going to win anything by running deep down at turn number 12. The tight right-hander just running deep and having to take all 4 wheels off the track and rejoin again. But I think Hamilton would absolutely kill for a positive weekend to end what has been, I'd say, his most challenging year in Formula One.
I'd say he's just looking to get to the end of the weekend. I mean, he was saying he's not going to miss this season. He's not going to miss this generation of car. He didn't feel particularly excited about heading into 26 either. When I asked him about what needs to happen over the winter break, he's going to make some changes in the team around him, or not necessarily changes. He's going to look at the team around him. He's going to look at how he's been, the travel and what he's been doing around race weekends. He was then talking about what needs to happen back at Maranello, at the factory, about perhaps things need to change there. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if his race engineer changes. It doesn't feel like that relationship has quite worked. But of course it's coming off the back of his amazing relationship that he had with Pete Boddington at Mercedes, and they were together the entire time Hamilton was at Mercedes, all of his championships. So that was always going to be a difficult relationship to replace. It feels with Hamilton, if he can get to Sunday night without anything catastrophic happening, if he can just get through this, he'll be happy to the back of this season and he'll do what he needs to do. He's an absolute professional. He's as hungry as he's ever been. He will go away, he'll look at everything. He will be very brutal with the team. He's not afraid coming forward with what he thinks is needed. Hopefully Ferrari will listen to him. It looks like him and Charles Leclerc have a very good relationship actually as teammates. They look like they're working quite well together. They are both incentivised to get that team moving forward. And it does seem like they are both in the same camp. They have very similar driving styles, and when they talk after races, they are saying quite similar things. So I think that pairing is actually very good for the team. It's now how they go away over winter, how they develop together, and I think think testing, which is not even that far away. You know, they go again in January. Just mad to think about. There is no winter break. And Lewis Hamilton was saying he starts training again before Christmas. Normally it's kind of January 2nd maybe.
No chocolate oranges.
No
in the
chocolate.
build up to Christmas
no
then.
advent calendars. Nothing.
Shocking, really. Shocking. That talk about. I mean, we know they have to sacrifice a lot, but that really is sacrifice, I'd say.
I don't even reckon they get a turkey dinner, do they?
Well, he wouldn't. He's a vegetarian, so he's a vegan. Even. So that's not happening for him.
Meat, what do they have? I don't know.
Some sort of, I don't know.
Nut roast or something
Nut
like
roast,
that.
that's it,
you're the vegetarian of the
Oh,
group.
the vegetarian.
I am indeed, yeah.
Cauliflower cheese. Ooh.
A nut roast and cauliflower cheese round Benson's house for Christmas is on order then, as the clock chimes down to 0. Checkered flag comes out at the end of free practice 2. And the lights very much blazing over this circuit here at Yas Marina on the man-made island of Yas, an entertainment hub really that Abu Dhabi have created off their coast, surrounded by the Ferrari World roller coaster. George Russell says that the ride's totally gone from his Mercedes at the end of clearly a bit of a tough session, but he finished 3rd on quick running on the soft tyre, over 3.5 tenths down on Lando Norris. He'll complete his lap and cross the line, because they'll want to do some practice starts, because it's a bit tricky to do that in the pit lane, because it's a unique pit lane here, because you head downhill and then you turn left and you go under the tunnel, which then feeds you out on the exit of 2, right in the middle of the right-hand sweeper of turn 3. So really tricky to get that one right. A lot of time to be found, a lot of time to be lost there when it comes to strategy on Sunday. And just worth bearing in mind, I think it's probably going to be a one-stop. And we look at what happened last year. Lando Norris won the race, started on the medium tyre, went to around, I think it was 26, 27 laps before he stuck on the hard tyre, then went all the way to the end and won it. But there could be an alternate strategy in the works. Lewis Hamilton started way down the order in qualifying, went on the hard tyre all the way to lap 34 and stuck on the medium, so the reverse strategy, and he went from 16th on the grid to 4th as well. So worth noting that could work out for anybody who maybe might have a tough qualifying, because this is really the last representative session we'll get before we go qualifying on Saturday.
And don't forget, Lewis Hamilton's a bit of a tyre whisperer, so I'm not sure that's available to everybody. But yes, this session mattered so much. It was an hour where the teams will have been getting as much data as they possibly can. They've done obviously the qualifying laps on the soft tyres and then the race simulations. There will be another hour of practice tomorrow morning. But again, that's run during the daytime, so not quite as representative, but you can absolutely guarantee that they will be getting the laps in. It'll be looking at the setups of the car. They will be trying to get as much as they can information-wise about how to set up the car, get ready going into qualifying, because it is game on.
Game on. An advantage Norris at the end of Friday's running. He's had a brilliant day, hasn't he?
He's had exactly the day that he needed to have. That 12-point cushion, I imagine, doesn't feel like a cushion right now. I imagine it feels a lot smaller than that, but he will be very happy with how today has gone. But it's just Friday practice. The real business starts tomorrow. He's got to put it on the front row, be it first, be it second. It doesn't really matter. I think the key here now for Norris, as long as he's lining up on the front row, I think he can then control the race. Even if he's in second, he just needs to stay there. He can, he has to manage what he can and what he can control. I think he'll come away from today with a lot of confidence, but it's going to be an incredibly long weekend for him.
Pole will be on the right-hand side. It's a 177-metre run down to turn 1. A left-hander. 10 of the last 12 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix have been won from pole position. The last 12 have all been won from the front row. So it will be crucial this time tomorrow not to make any mistakes. And we know sometimes for Lando Norris, when the pressure really builds and the McLaren can sometimes be a little bit unsteady when running low fuel, there could be a big snap like we saw in FP1 for Lando Norris sweeping through turn 2 or 3.
So here's the question for Lando Norris. How does he approach it? Does he approach it like every other race weekend where he has to go for the win, or he wants the win? These are racing drivers. They only really know that. Or does he think, I just need to be on the podium? And that is a really tricky position to be in, because now is not the time to be changing your racing craft or your racing style. You have to go in with the mindset of the win. But that's easy for me to say up here in the commentary box. I'm not the one down there fighting for a world championship. So for Norris, I think he just has to keep a calm head. He goes into the debrief now. He's going to be there with Piastri. I think it's going to be very informative for Piastri. He's only 11th fastest at the moment. I think that will, as Rosanna rightly said, he's known for building through the weekend. So I think it's going to be a very interesting debrief, but there's still a long way to go.
There is indeed, but night has fallen here in Abu Dhabi and brings to a close Friday's running. Lando Norris topping both sessions of the day. And a reminder, Lando Norris will be Formula One World Champion on Sunday if he finishes on the podium. But we have one more practice session to go before qualifying on Saturday. Sports Extra, 2 o'clock for that one. Do join us for it. And if you're up earlier, FP3 as well. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.